We're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Swing to the Hips, episode 12. Really starting to get into it now. We've got the full dozen up there, so that's cranking along. Well, we have some real cricket to talk about this week, so can't wait to get into that. But before we dig into that, let's get one of our regulars on anyway. Welcome to Rohit. How are you doing?
Good evening. Yeah, doing well. Been a busy, long week already.
Hang on.
But
what's going on here?
hello.
Hello, hang on one moment. Sorry. There we go. Sorry, technical difficulties. Start again. Hey, hello, Rohit. How you doing?
Ooh, yeah, very good, very good. Been a busy week, and it's already been a long week. But hey, nearly there.
Nearly there. Yep. One more day, or the weekend starts for me tonight anyway. But I won't go into that. Yeah, and then unfortunately for us, Tarun can't join us tonight. Yes. The cricket season is starting to get started. He's in his cricket role. They've got some meetings tonight, so it'll be interesting to see what planning that they start to do early in the season, and maybe hopefully we'll get to hear from him in the coming weeks as to what clubs are doing at this early stage of the season. And we'll see there. But we'll crack on into it. It's just Rohit and myself tonight, and we'll get in there with This Week in History. Let's go.
This week in history. Hey, look.
Oh, shit.
There's been. I'm back on, am I? I think I am.
Yeah, you're back on. Sorry, you're back on.
Hey, look. Yeah, this week there's been a lot of birthdays there, and I've just picked a few out of there. So this is an interesting one for me. Two Indian captains actually born on the same date, just different years. July the 8th. One is 1972, and the other one is 1981. Sourav Ganguly and the helicopter man MS Dhoni, born in 81. So yeah, that's an interesting little fact there, both born on the same date and captains of India. Now, the other ones I've picked out are obviously New Zealand legends of the Richard Hadlee and Ewan Chatfield, July the 3rd, and Chat's 1950, and Sir Richard Hadlee, should I say, 1951. And then we had John Wright, born 5th of July, 1954, ex-New Zealand captain there too, an opener. And our very own current wicketkeeper test batsman, BJ Watling, July 9th, 1985. So that's a few birthdays there covered off, and moving on, we've got Dickie Bird making his test debut as an umpire at Headingley. He umpired, what date? July the 5th, 1973, off the top of my head. And that was in a test match against England versus New Zealand. So there we have it. He stood in a record 66 tests back then. At the stage when he retired, it was a record. Next I got on my list is, I'm going to jump around years here, but 2019, Rohit Sharma became the first batsman to score 500s in a World Cup. He beat Kumar Sangakkara's record of 4 in the 2015 tournament when he made 103 against Sri Lanka. And that was in India's final league stage game. It also took him to the top of the charts for that tournament. So he's had a bloody good run, old Rohit Sharma. Now, got some interesting one here. Back in 1981, we had end of a painful era for the English cricket team where Ian Botham was their captain, and he ended up resigning after, I don't think he had any wins in 12 tests. So he ended up resigning then as the captain of England and carried on playing, obviously. But then just a year later, he scores his highest test score, and it was a quick 200-odd plus against the Indians. So probably, the weight of being the captain might have been, the shackles being released there, helped him to be able to blow it all away. And one of the interesting things in that knock that I thought was he fractured Sunil Gavaskar's left fibula, smashing it when he was fielding at Silly Point. So you wouldn't want to be there when both of them smacking it away. And just lastly, 1931, this is one that we pulled up with a prankster being born. England's Peter Richardson. He had a fondness for sending false records to E.W. Swanston for publication in the Daily Telegraph. So it would be interesting to see what he was actually sending through as any records that he had. But there we have it, a few little things and some birthdays.
That's that's rather interesting there with the old Ian Botham, wasn't it? Absolutely, the weight of captaincy off your shoulders and just frees you up to play back to your own game, focus on your own game. And it is interesting with Ben Stokes taking over with Joe Root in the test match that started last night. And we'll see how that seems to impact his game as also an all-rounder in the lines of Beefy Botham.
Absolutely. You want to bring yourself up?
You want to Oh, yeah. I'm having a mare tonight, for people. Sorry, I'm trying to do all run the show tonight, and I'm having a mare. I've started poorly. I can only go up. I can only go up from here. I can only go up.
He started the innings off on a bad start. Yeah,
he's playing and missing all over the place. Doesn't know whether he's going back or forward.
It's seeming everywhere at the moment.
It's unplayable. It's unplayable. Hey, look, the other one, there's Johnny Wright with his birthday, and let's not forget he was the coach of the Indians there for a while too, wasn't he?
Absolutely, yes, and he did a bloody good job. And then, with Sourav Ganguly there as the captain, the two of them bringing the Indian cricket team back up to recognition. Really, it was a turning point.
He did. He was actually and made a huge turnaround for the Indians there. And as I said, the two Indian captains born on the same day, different year, and then two New Zealand fast bowlers that became such a lethal pair, sort of, born on the same day, different years as well, and Chats and Paddles.
Absolutely. Great combination, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's funny because it's just like, you say a lethal pair, but it was more the fact that Ewan Chatfield kept everybody quiet at one end and basically miserly, and with Richard Hadley's ability with the ball to make it to talk, he picked up the wicket at the other end with the pressure.
Absolutely. Pace, guile. He's a great bowler. I love watching. I was still watching the record, watching him play recently on the TV with the highlights that they had. Always try to emulate his bowling with that action. It just was an awesome action.
I believe our brother is also correct in that John Wright was the first foreign coach for India.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that is correct.
That's right.
Yes. So moving on into the news of today, and I'll just sort of find myself where I was. There we go. So coming up for the news of today, and just coming in on the wires today is that Sophie Devine has been retained as the captain of the White Ferns. She took over from Amy Satterthwaite, who went on paternity leave. Amy Satterthwaite is back from maternity leave, but Sophie Devine, who had a very successful year last year, has been retained as the captain of the White Ferns. Also, with news happening out of England, but not the Test match, Jitan Patel has announced that he'll be transitioning more from a playing role to a coaching role. And after a very successful county career, he's basically moving into a coaching role. And from all accounts, a lot of players do respect the tutelage that he delivers. So it'll be interesting to see how he progresses in that coaching role, and maybe he can emulate John Wright. In a bit of news off the field is that Kusal Mendes, the Sri Lankan wicketkeeper, was arrested this week and charged after a traffic accident where he killed the local villager. He's been in front of the magistrate and been ordered to pay $5,000 US in fines, and also he's paying $5,000 US to the family of the villager that was killed. He's actually got to reappear in front of the magistrate in September as well. Moving right along, and we've got Sourav Ganguly, who had a birthday this week. He has announced that the Asia Cup for 2020 has been cancelled. And when contacted the PCB and the BCB, that's the Pakistan Cricket Board and the Bangladesh Cricket Board, confirmed that they hadn't heard anything. So that's interesting. The BCCI has announced that the Asia Cup 2020 has been cancelled, but two of the nations involved in it don't know what's happening there. And in the biggest news of today, and that's the fact that Test cricket is back. So let's get into that, and we'll have a look at what's going on there. And we'll bring Rohit back in for our conversation on that, and I'll remember to do that this time. So, yes, so we've basically had the first day of the first test between England and the West Indies at the GS Bowl in Southampton. Now, just to summarise the early happenings, and that is basically England under the new captain Ben Stokes had won the toss, and they decided to have a bat. Overhead conditions were rather overcast, obviously, because they did start play late. There was a rain delay. The covers were on the ground for a fair while. And the play didn't get started on time, not even close to it. So there were overhead conditions, but regardless of that, the pitch was dry, and the AGS Bowl, Southampton ground oval there, does take a bit of spin. So Ben Stokes deciding to have a bat. Team decisions of interest were the fact that they've gone with Chris Wokes ahead of Stuart Broad. Now that brings an end to Stuart Broad's record of consecutive test matches at home. So that was a shame that that's happened, but they've decided to go with Wokes. But in saying that, they are quite open about the fact that they are going to rotate the squad, the bowling squad in particular, through the home matches that they have. So that's it. And then basically Jason Holder wasn't too disheartened to lose the toss. He feels that they've actually got quite a strong bowling lineup, and they're going to be 4 quicks running in at the English. There's Roston Chase, who will be their spin option, and they're basically raring to go and believe that they've got the bowling lineup to. Doesn't matter that they're bowling first or bowling second. So there we go. So we'll just bring up the old test match scoreboard. Where's that gone there? And we just got there. We've got, hopefully everybody can see that. Basically, we've got Rory Burns on 20. Dom Sibley is the only wicket to have fallen. He got a ball from Shannon Gabriel. Now, there's basically the ball before. Dom Sibley had played and missed at a ball that pitched and nipped away from him. And following ball, Shannon Gabriel got one to follow the same line, except this time it's nipped back in. And Sibley, thinking that it's going to be going away, has left it and it's gone back into the castle and crashed into the stumps. And he was out for 0 with only facing 4 balls. So early days, it looked pretty good. And I'm guessing the guys in the dressing room would have been going, Ben Stokes, what's with batting first after winning the toss? How would you be thinking in the old dressing rooms with the first wicket going in the second over, Rohit?
Yeah, well, not a good start for them actually, but I'm interested in some of these selections. Let's start there, because is it a little bit of the changing of the guard there with Stuart Broad not playing in the first test at home, for their season?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'd have to agree with you. Before the, with the extended squads, let's say, and there was the 5 pace bowlers that they had in the extended squad, and you looked at the quality of the attack that they have, that Broad looked like the player he was going to miss out at that stage. The one thing that they were talking about, though, is the fact is that one thing Stuart Broad does bring is that he does get, particularly in home conditions, is that he does use the conditions well. So he does get good swing, and he does use the pitch or get the movement off the pitch well as well. But I totally agree with you. I think it could be a bit of a changing of the guard there happening. But look, let's face it. Fast bowlers, they break down quite easily, don't they?
Yeah, he's an aging bowler, I suppose. But for me, I would have probably gone with the experienced bowlers ahead in the first test, and then see how that pans out. Especially if they're thinking of rotating, it's your first test, so you want to use your tried and proven players, I would have thought. So that was an interesting thing for me. But the other thing is, you mentioned that it's they talked about it being a spinner's track.
Yes.
Jason Holder's gone in with 4 pacemen and thinking, no, it's okay, we'll blast them out. So how's that going to pan out on the spinner's deck?
Yeah, look, as I said, he's got confidence in Roston Chase, but that means that you're going to be basically at some stage, if you're under the pump, if you're chasing a big, if the runs are going, if England's scoring the runs, you're going to be rotating your 4 fast bowlers at one end with the spinner just going all day at the other, aren't you? And and when those fingers get a bit sore, who you're replacing them with? I don't know if there's an obvious one to sort of just come in as a part-time spinner even.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Who they got there as a backup? Because they're going to need someone, I'd say, if it's a spinning track and the ball's not doing much for the seamers.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm drawing blanks on it. I'm not sure who would be that would be bringing in as your sort of part-time spin bowler.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure myself, but I'm not sure if the youngster Shea Hope has rolled the arm over.
That's the one I was thinking of. That is the one I was thinking of. And if we actually let's just have a look there, because we can with modern technology.
He hasn't
there
really
we go.
bowled
We'll just see if he's got any bowling figures there.
None.
Oh, he got no. So we're clutching at straws there, aren't we?
We've hit a duck.
We've hit a duck.
But hey, who knows? It might be his day.
We'll keep an eye out on it, and we'll see what happens in terms of the bowling and who comes in there. Yeah, I suppose Yep. Sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, bringing you back to your original question of going into bat first.
Yep.
If it's a spinner's deck, that means they're going to get to bowl last on it, doesn't it? So,
absolutely.
They try. Obviously, the plan would be to get the runs on the board, first dig, get as many as they can, and then hope to be able to roll the Windies in that first dig and put some more runs on the board in the second. And then spin them out, as they say. So I have no issue with the call of batting first. I think if you want to win Test matches, you got to take 20 wickets, but you got to get the runs on the board too.
Yeah,
and that's the way the weather is going.
It's interesting you say how the weather's going. Right? It's just like I can't remember if we actually used it. I mean, like, this is how old I am now. But obviously, in our prep for today's show, one of the historical back in history games showed a game where the West Indies actually cruised to an innings victory, winning the game on the 5th day. But that doesn't tell the story. Basically, there were only 3 days played in the 5 days, obviously because of rain interruptions. So you can go in there. You don't need 5 days when the weather conditions help you out.
That's true too. So it's going to be interesting how much influence the weather's going to have in this Test match. I haven't had a look at the 5-day forecast, to be honest, but it's
nice segue. Let's look at the 5-day forecast, and hopefully everybody can see that on the screen. It's come up, and basically today, the second day of the Test match, it's looking like there's it says 40% chance, so let's just round that up and go 50-50 chance of some precipitation at some stage during the day. I haven't looked at the actual timings for the predictions on those showers coming through, but for the rest of the test match, there's a small percentage of chance of rain. So whether with the moisture in the air, whether the pitch actually deteriorates anyway is questionable as well, isn't it?
Well, that's right, and I think West Indies wouldn't have minded losing that toss too, to be fair, because moisture in the air can get the ball moving around a bit. Pitch might not be as dry as they may be thinking early on, so that rain on the first day and some expected today could keep it in for the bowlers.
And the pitch was undercover for basically a large period there with the overnight rain, etc., or forecasted rain. So they keep the pitch undercover. So you're going to get some sort of sweating and moisture, even with the latest technology covers that they're using, which are obviously not straight down onto the pitch surface, but cover the pitch. But you're still going to get some sort of moisture build up under there. So there's going to be some moisture in that track.
You would think so. You would think so. So
that's it. And if you've got moisture around today, then it's going to elongate the period for which you can get some assistance out of it. The West Indies will be hoping.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Their pace attack would be hoping that the ball would do some more talking for them. That first session today is going to be critical, I'd say. Yep.
Yeah, let's get the cliches out.
It's
Critical as the first hour of play.
It's time we get these cliches going now because we get to see some cricket.
We have a lack of cliches on our show. Let's be upfront. We have a lack of cliches on our show.
We do.
The first hour of play is going to be critical because with the one wicket that has fallen, obviously there was some movement that was available to Shannon Gabriel that's picked up that one wicket, who's got figures of 1 for 19 off 5 overs. So they'll be fresh. Basically, they bowled 17 overs, so they're going to be fresh. They'll be coming. Kemar, Roach, and Gabriel will probably open up again, and they'll be looking to extract something out of that pitch, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And looking at those figures, he didn't look like his economy rate there for Kemar Roach at 0.3. Looked like they're struggling to score off him.
That's it, and exactly. And it's just like, unfortunately, by the time I think play got underway at about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock New Zealand time, and that's in the morning, so I haven't seen any of the footage. But you'd expect that the Shannon Gabriel, some of those would have been edges off the bat going down to the fine leg third man boundary.
Yeah, as happens early on in Test matches.
Exactly. You don't need. They're actually. Just digressing slightly, you've skippered sides, right?
Yep.
Why don't you have a third man in a Test match?
I often say that myself because it's a run saver, but it's seen as defensive, right?
Yep.
Because if you're going in on the first day of a Test match and you've got your third man in play. That's seen as a very defensive start from the outset. So what sort of message are you sending to the opposition?
So you're effectively saying it's a wasted player in terms of trying to get you 20 wickets.
That's it. Because all you're doing is stopping four runs being scored off the edge of the bat, right?
Yeah.
So you're better to keep the 3 or 4 slips in play and hope the edge goes to them.
So basically bringing that third man up into the slips cordon rather than having a back saving run.
Yeah. I have often thought about it myself. I've seen it happen in second innings, which were
you trying to limit the damage or restrict the number of runs that a team is getting that you might have to chase in a final innings?
Because let's face it, how many runs get scored going down to third man fine leg? It's incredible.
I was an all-rounder when I played, not to any great level, but I was an all-rounder. And it's just, I watch it, and it's just like you bowl a fantastic ball, or you're bowling a really good spell, and edge after edge is going along the ground through the slips cord. And actually, ironically, the hardest one to stop is the ball along the ground because it's the furthest away from you, and it's going away for 4, and you're bowling beautifully.
Yeah, and it's very frustrating, isn't it? So it is. It is an unknown quandary, that one. But I've heard even Chappell talk about it at one stage on commentary when he does his commentary on during the cricket Test matches, right? And typical Australian, he's also saying defensive move. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But I think when you got to first innings, you want to show the opposition that you're out there to play, and attack is the name of the game there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, now we'll just have to basically see how the second day progresses, and hopefully they get some cricket happening. And we'll jump back into, Paul's joined us, so that's welcome to Paul.
G'day.
Joined us there. Late to the party, but that's okay.
Yeah. Always late to the party. But also, one of the things you mentioned during the week, during the morning sports briefings, was that Brian Lara was saying, look, the West Indies would have to win this within 4 because otherwise they'd run out of puff. Having basically had the first day rained off, does that mean that the West Indies are in a better position now?
I think so, absolutely. I mean, like when we talk about what Rohit and I just talked about with 4 pace bowlers and a spinner, that means that the pace bowlers can actually go even harder, and they can push them even longer because they know there's only 4 days left in the Test match now.
Yeah, and the fact is, it's match fitness as well, right? These guys haven't played for how long?
Yeah.
And your body's going to be sore after 1 or 2 days of bowling hard out. That's for sure. I know, even like early preseason matches when I used to play, you're buggered the next day. So these guys, they've got a different level of fitness and all, but there's fitness and there's match fitness, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that's any sport. So anybody that plays any sport out there, and I mean, whether it's rugby or cricket or hockey or whatever sport you're playing, you can train the house down for as long as you want, but there's nothing that duplicates the getting out there and actually playing the game and the energy that's required to play the game versus training.
Well, and you got the West Indian attack with the fast bowlers. Their legs are going to start to feel a bit heavy in this third session if they've managed to play all day. So they're looking forward to putting their feet up for the night so they can rest for the next day.
And the ground's going to be a bit soft. I mean, it's not going to be hard and fast because they've had the rain. And obviously running around in a soft outfield is going to take it out of your legs a bit more than if it had been dry for a week before leading up to the game.
Absolutely. So that's where it's going to be key. Once, if they can get these 10 wickets that they need, the batsmen do dig in for a long period. And, they need to look at batting at least 4 sessions, I'd say.
But now it's confession time. So we'll get into the confessional and we'll say our Hail Marys. But basically, we were looking forward, and the cricketing world was so looking forward to the start of this test match. And we were basically looking forward to talking about lots of little things that were happening in the game. And
I thought he was in the bloody meeting.
And no, I don't even. So anyway, we were expecting to be talking about the game and lots of little things that have happened in the game and the impact that they've had, but they only bowled 17 overs, so we really haven't. So we've had to do what the test players do on a rainy day, and we've had to come up with our archive footage. So Absolutely. We're going to be going. We've got something to do to talk about, and we're going to do a few player comparisons. So we're going to bring up some player comparisons. But before we jump into that, there was this comment from a friend of the show, a host from another show, Cornflakes, does our rugby shows, and just wondering what would happen if someone ran over a cricket player ran over somebody in India. Now, there's a good story that goes like this. So I told Cornflake and Paul a couple of nights ago, actually, and Sunday night, and so I'll tell you about the story. And it's about Navjot Sidhu, and it goes that he was driving around in India and he ran someone over and killed them, unfortunately, and so he was given the option of going to the West Indies, playing for India and going to the West Indies, or facing jail time and going to court and possibly facing jail time. So at the time, that wasn't an easy decision to make, actually, as you'd sort of think that's an easy decision. Because at the time, the pace bowling attack for the West Indies was brutal. Now, it was, I think it was Curtly Ambrose time and Courtney Walsh and friends. And it's like, yes, it wasn't something playing them on their home surfaces in the West Indies was not an easy thing. And you knew what was coming. It wasn't anything at your toes. Well, you might get the odd one at your toes just to get you playing forward, but the majority of them are coming short and at your head. So he had the option, go to court, possible jail time, or play for India in the West Indies. And he went and played for India in the West Indies. So that's what happens if you're in India and you run someone over. You get sent to West Indies to play your cricket.
Exactly.
Yes,
sorry. Carry
on.
I was going to segue off, but that's all right.
No, and as Aaron said, Navjot Sidhu, great commentator. He had great stories. If you get a chance, maybe YouTube or Google him or whatever. And some of his sayings were just fantastic. One of the ones that sticks in my head was just like, when you dine with the devil, make sure you have a very long spoon.
He had some great lines. I loved listening to him. I mean,
absolutely.
we were, the late Martin Crowe with his what and blue blazers and things like that. And there you got Danny Morrison making some really interesting calls and from the 2020 stuff. But Navjot, I think he takes, he's top of the pack.
He's top of the pack, absolutely, absolutely. He was gone before our time, unfortunately. Before his time, I should say, before his time.
Yes.
It's like he could definitely use a bit more.
Absolutely. So what's this? I was going to say I saw something about Brian Lara and Tendulkar talking to the West Indians, and saying one of their what should we say, tips, I suppose, to the batting team was to protect their stumps and play beside the line of the ball. That was their wisdom and that they passed on to the playing 11 here. And just interestingly, the West Indies have struggled in England in having, I've just read here that they've failed to win a test series in the country since 1988, and they've only managed to win 6 tests in that period. Now, batting is a weakness for them.
Yeah, for the West Indies. Well, we talked about this in last week's show, right? In terms of the fact that when you look at the scorecards from the last series where England played the West Indies, there isn't a dominant performance through the series from anyone in particular.
That's right.
Probably outside of Jason Holder, really. He actually scored a few runs. He got double 100, in fact, on one of them. So it was really, they got some big scores in the first 2 test matches, but it was done by a team total rather than anyone in particular. So it's probably a fair comment, actually, to say that really there's no one that stands out. The bowlers stand out. They've got some good bowling stocks there. But for their batters, there's not somebody who's consistently performing and getting scores.
Not that you can see in that top lineup, eh? So
it doesn't jump out at you, no.
No, and that's going to be an interesting to watch as this test match unfolds. How the West Indies batting lineup is going to face up to the English bowlers, because it is their home conditions, as we know. Having lost a day won't make too much of a difference at this stage. Fearing a result, it's still on the table, obviously, at the moment, because it's still the early days, as they say.
Yes.
4 days to go, still 12 more sessions.
Absolutely, plenty of time.
That's right. 4 threes are 12. Yeah, 12 more sessions.
It's close enough. Close enough.
Maths ain't my number one topic.
Just on our maths ability, just because we look like we're Asian. And because we're jumping around all over the show, because we got a request through one of the chat rooms comment sections on Navjot Sidhu's career. And not a tiny little career, 51 matches, 42 average, and I believe he used to open occasionally as well, if he was not an opener all the time.
I think he was an opener, yeah.
Yeah, so
he
sort of
did have a pretty decent
over a bit.
Yeah, he did have a pretty decent record.
Decent record, all right. Yeah, 50 on his, let's see, high score of 201, so anybody who get a double century is... not too bad in our books, really, is they?
Yes, exactly. So, you got. I think you got to look up some YouTube commentary of Navjot, because it is just classic.
Yep.
Now, there's another comment here. Some people are throwing in here with other commentators being the favourites.
Yeah, we'll digress from player comparisons and let's talk about commentators.
Absolutely. This is good fun on the commentary team. Kerry O'Keefe.
Nick Paddy would give the dog a bone.
Absolutely.
This man's a Rolling Stone. I can't remember the whole story, but...
No. I'll be able to dig that out from somewhere. I've got it. He is another legend, isn't he? I mean, the guy just doesn't stop cracking up.
Actually, one of the other commentators mentioned is Jeremy Coney. And so Kerry O'Keefe, Jeremy Coney. I know Kerry O'Keefe's jumped that sort of line and now gone to TV commentating as well. But Jeremy Coney and Kerry O'Keefe on the radio, great. You just love listening to them on the radio and the stories that they told, the way that they shared their information about what's happening on the pitch, absolutely fantastic.
So I remember back in the days when Kerry O'Keefe on it used to be ABC on radio.
Yep.
Right. Test matches in Australia, Ashes test matches. I'd turn the commentary off on the TV and listen to Kerry. Because it was just great commentary. You couldn't beat it. Yeah, the other one, Jeremy Coney's another one. Yeah, classic. He's a great commentator.
I remember it was like being a little bit older, not too much older, but a little bit older than yourself. I mean, we actually had a shortwave radio that because before we used to get the broadcasts coming through of the matches from Australia, listen to on shortwave radio. So you're getting Kerry O'Keefe on shortwave radio coming through on the ABC.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and speaking of Navjot Sidhu and commentators, Tarun's just told us that he's doing Hindi commentaries. So he's doing cricket commentaries in Hindi. Basically. So
wow. Yeah.
It'd be great to have him back on our English channels, wouldn't it? Because as we just said,
I'd love to get.
Yep.
Absolutely. Imagine if you got the translation of what he's saying in Hindi.
Well, this is Tarun's going literally quite funny. So
exactly. I'd like to hear what he's saying.
Well, as we know, I mean, like Rohit and myself speak a little bit of Gujarati, and there's certain stories or certain sayings that you say that just don't translate when you turn them into English.
Yeah. Oh, there's another guy that's popped up. He's great, hey? Sweet Caroline.
Absolutely.
Bumble. Who could forget Bumble? Oh, what a commentator.
But look, when we look at the commentators that we've mentioned, and one we didn't actually mention was Henry Blofeld.
Yes.
Again, entertaining person to listen to. But Kerry O'Keefe, Jeremy Coney, Henry Blofeld, Navjot Sidhu, David Lloyd, Bumble.
Yeah.
The thing about those commentators is something in common, and that's their storytelling ability.
Yes.
That's the thing, and it's like that. Cricket's like, like the Americans' baseball. It's a long sport. There's time to fill, and the way that these guys tell a yarn, tell a story, and the color that they give it with is just fantastic.
Absolutely. Oh, it's fantastic, all right. And
Paul,
that's part of cricket, enjoyment.
Well, it's also the differences here is the difference between radio commentary and TV commentary. Radio commentary, you have time to fill, as you say. TV commentary, they'll throw on a replay, or they'll throw on an old. If it's rained off for an hour, they'll throw on an old piece of play. So there isn't the time, or they don't take the time to tell stories on as TV commentators, whereas the radio commentators do, and that's what's really nice, especially about the cakes that they get sent in.
Yep,
absolutely.
That's that special reference there. For those who follow that in England, you used to follow that in England.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to throw something out. I'm going to segue again,
segue, because we've been segueing all over the place tonight.
I know. Well, the ball's going all over the show today, so we're talking about Navjot Sidhu and being the opener. Now, I was watching some footage recently of India versus Australia in a test match down under, and we had Srikanth, another Indian opener. I don't know how much of him you saw, but I was probably a little bit young watching him. But I was watching him play the other day on TV in the test match, and he was a modern day batsman for that era, I felt, because he would have been able to play in this day and age with the way he was smacking the ball around. I don't know if you see much of him or seen any of that footage.
I do actually. That's a name that sticks in my head from my younger days, definitely. Actually, Chris Srikanth, and but unfortunately, I didn't see the games that I saw. I've been watching some of these old games as well, and he was playing, but the game was a crap game. There was no runs scored.
yeah. That's what that was that day and age. There hardly any runs.
There was no runs scored in the games that I watched.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I didn't see the games where he scored some runs and how he scored them.
No, it seemed to be like a free-flowing batsman, for an opener, which I thought, wow, he would do in this day and age. He would probably do quite well.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the thing. It's when you look at some of the players, and obviously their game was built around that time and that day sort of thing. But that with the skill set that they had, and then now the progression and the way that the game's changed, how they would perform in today's environment, because they've got the skill and the ability, and whether they would be the big boppers and that we have and join the guys that we have today of the David Warners and those sorts of players.
Absolutely, and I felt and look, there's a comment on here saying the first hard hitter in the opening space, and that's exactly where I'm coming from. He was the Warner of the time,
right?
The way he was playing things I saw, and this was in test matches. So,
and that's without the a bat that's got an edge as thick as a face.
Absolutely, yeah. And back then, those bats were pretty heavy compared to what you can get nowadays.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you got something that had a bit of weight in it, it was a heavy bat, or a thickness, I should say. If it had a bit of
meat,
mass meat, it had the meat exactly. If it had some meat, it was a heavy bat.
Yeah, it was. It was probably over 3 pounds. Like nowadays, you can get a thick bat, and it's probably about 2 pound.
2.5, 2.6.
Easy pickup, easy pickup.
Yeah.
But back then, geez, those are well over 3 pounders, I would have felt. So you needed some pretty big Robin Smith forearms. Eyes.
just there with the aluminium bats. Yeah, unfortunately, Dennis Lilly's aluminium bats got outlawed by the ICC or the MCC. I would have who come up with the laws of the game. So yes, absolutely. That would have been the. Now I just wanted to go back. I was just going to find. I'll just hang with me, people. Great show.
While he's doing that, Tarun's put another message saying that dry wood these days making the stick lighter. That's probably why they're not so heavy. But I wonder. I mean, back in the day, my day as well, when I was playing, we used to oil the bats. I don't know if they do that these days.
No, you don't oil the bats these days. But I got something wrong the other day, and that's you do knock them in. So they do knock the bats in. Yeah. I thought they were sort of like, well, I suppose what I got mixed up with was the fact that pre-knocked in bat sort of thing. So it is the fact that it's been done already, I suppose, so you don't have to sit at home with a cricket ball going bang.
Yeah, look at that. I've done that many times. Give it to the guy with the machine. Let him do it.
No, I found what I was going to. It's like Danny Morrison. Now Danny Morrison's an interesting one. Now. He can be infuriating and entertaining at the same time, I find. What are your thoughts? And I don't think he'll ever make it to the New Zealand or Australian commentary teams because he's just
not
so
on the
different.
number one. Yeah, his style of commentary is different, isn't it?
It's very different from anybody else.
But I think it works for him for the T20 game because that's where he predominantly commentates.
Yes.
And that's a showstopper, right? It's about the show. And he's that type of commentator for the show. Yeah,
that's it. That's probably you've summed that up really well. Really, he is a T20 specialist commentator.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's the razzmatazz, and it goes along with his persona of the way that he commentates, etc.
The way he commentates. I mean, he's not going to be a test match commentator, that's for sure. As much as I like you, Danny.
Love you, Danny. You're a Kiwi, mate, even though you live in Brisbane, I think.
We won't hold that against you either.
It's just like, Southampton, are you ready? Yes. Doesn't quite work for test match cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's get ready to rumble. But
that was really poor. You shouldn't try that one.
It was terrible. I won't do it again. I'll apologise to all our viewers. Don't disappear for that one.
Now, actually, talking of, obviously, we talked about Chris Srikanth finding that open space and hitting hard into those open spaces. We've got mention of Glenn Turner. Now, Glenn Turner is someone that I remember specifically saying and talking about one-day cricket and chipping over the top in the first 15 overs. And it's just like intentionally, because let's face it, when you're a young cricketer coming through, what are you taught to do?
Hit the ball along the ground.
Hit the ball along the ground. Play the ball on the ground. You can't get out, exactly. If you hit the ground, you can't get out. Glenn Turner, I remember vividly, it's something that stuck in my head. He came out, and when he finally did start playing again for New Zealand, talked about chipping the infield. Now, it was interesting because he was never a big David Warner hitter of the ball, right? but he would chip the ball over the infield to get it away, and you'd get 2s and 3s, etc. So yeah.
And that was the formula back then for that game in that era, wasn't it? Chip it over the top, get 2 or 3. If you hit it on the ground, you're only going to get best possibly 1.
That's right.
If you hit the gap, so the game is amazingly how much of it has changed over the years.
Totally
especially since watching all that old footage. As much as you think it was the amazing eras of cricket, it was a different sport back then, I have to say, because
it's a different sport. I mean, like we go back to the bats. I mean, just the bats alone.
Yeah. Even the standard in the play and the fielding. It's sometimes you see some of these bowling attacks from back then, and you compare it to the modern bowling attacks. It's just way different. Because the armory that these bowlers have this day and age is a lot more tricks. They've got a lot more tools in their kit compared to back then, right? Yes, you're still bowling your stop ball because that's what you're trained to do and all of that. But I think these modern day players have got a lot more.
Oh, geez, knuckleballs, carom balls, out of the back of the hand. So many different variations, and we talked about that on one of our previous shows as well. So it's just like, and then in cricket, I mean, it was a real surprise when somebody reverse sweeped in an orthodox stance. Now you're reverse sweeping in a reverse stance.
Yeah, it was unheard of. A reverse sweep. Why the hell would you do that?
Yeah, exactly. You're risking your wicket by doing a reverse sweep. Why take that amount of risk?
Absolutely. Sort of thing. And now it's commonplace, and it happens in test matches these days too, which would have been frowned upon back in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but even watching the fielding standards just amazing from back in the early 80s and that to modern day.
One of the wow moments that we go back a long time is I remember you could catch back in Australia before they brought the boundaries in for safety factors. You could lean on the fence and catch the ball, and I remember Dipak Patel on the long off or long on boundary, basically catching a one-hander while jumping off the boundary fence. Just reaching up in the sky, sort of thing. So, and that was like, oh my God, what an amazing catch! And then if we go to Skippy Sinclair in the outfield, but these days you're jumping out of the field of the arena, throwing the ball up, jumping out of the arena, jumping back in, and then catching the ball. And it's just double play type scenarios where you're sliding along, flicking it up to the fielder, who's then pitching it back into the keeper.
But isn't that amazing how the sport has evolved from the early years? Yes, there was a gentleman's sport. People probably never even dirtied their trousers bothering to dive for the ball because they'd normally put their foot out and the ball would go over the top of their foot right into the boundary and they miss it.
That's right. Yep.
And you think, man, this day and age, we all dive around in the field to try and stop a run. But back then, they didn't bother.
And it's interesting. You'd have to probably say that T20 has really accelerated the development of all parts of the cricket game.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I don't really enjoy watching the T20 stuff, it actually has enhanced the skill level of the modern day player. And that has been taken into one-day cricket, test match cricket as well. People are scoring runs a lot quicker in test match cricket these days.
Yes.
You expected to score 300 in a day. Back then, it was
absolutely.
You did 150, 180. It was a good day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like 1.5 runs and over. That's what we used to watch back in the day.
And it was entertaining.
It was.
Yeah.
Absolutely thrilling.
It is amazing to watch the evolution of the way the game's been played this day and age. But we're getting some comments coming up here. So what do we got?
Just some memories of some catches, and it's just like a
yes,
couple more. Martin Snedden and the underarm game where he caught Greg Chappell, and Greg Chappell just stood there and didn't go off. So Martin Snedden, and again, in terms of the time of the day back then, it was an absolute sensational catch by Martin Snedden, running in, diving forward, full length dive, caught in the hands just off the surface of the ground, and Greg Chappell just stood there, and the umpire said not out. And it's like, oh my god! And
this is the Australian captain. I can't give him out. He's not walking.
Well, it's Greg Chappell, isn't it? He's not just the Australian captain; he's also Greg Chappell. And then Tarun talking about Vittori's catch in the World Cup in 2015.
Oh gosh,
I can't remember that one, to be honest.
I'm trying to think of that one. Trying to think of it.
Tarun, you might have to come back to us with a few more details on that one. That one's drawing a blank, unfortunately.
The ones that you're talking about, the modern day catch outside the boundary, jumping in the air to bring it back in. The ones that I remember, like Trent Bolt, I've seen him do that a few times, haven't you?
Yes.
Flying in the air, just to take those catches from outside the boundary and back in again. It's just
back
amazing.
in again. Yeah, absolutely. Well, now you're even seeing ones where they dive outside the field of play and throw it back in, where it's not necessarily a catch because it hasn't, but saves the 6.
Absolutely saves the 6. So it's incredible stuff. These guys practice that sort of stuff day in day out nowadays too. So, that's part of the game. Fine leg, one hand up. There you go. Down fine leg. Yeah, I vaguely remember that now. I did wonder if it was on that leg side down there, but the Trent Bolt catches ones for the memory banks, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Except for the one which I don't want to mention, but I will in the World Cup final. I would never have thought he'd drop that one. But hey, that's going to be scar for life, I feel.
Yeah. We've moved on from 4 more years to another form of 4 more years.
Yeah, exactly. So well, that's some interestingness goal, for us going back through the years and
turning back the years,
checking out the evolution of the game, really.
Absolutely, and how it has evolved. Yeah. I suppose we've got a little bit more time, so
tell you something else that's so funny.
Oh no, answer. You go for it.
This day it's about the professionalism, right? And compared to back in the day. So, this day and age, you have your stumps and they're perfect with the bails. Now, I like looking at this little detail like that, and they're perfectly lined up, right? Let's pretend they're 2 bails there.
Yep.
I remember watching one of the test matches, the middle stump was lower. So, to me, who likes to have that perfect bail lined up, this is the middle stump, and it's gone lower, so your off and leg is higher, so the bails are coming down. And I was thinking, how could that happen? It would never happen in this day.
No, not at all. Not at all. That's
backyard cricket to me.
Backyard cricket, absolutely. It's just like, ooh, if the off stump was the same height as the other 2, it probably would have clipped it. Bugger. Again, professionalism. Are probably a lot of professionalism is, for want of a better term, imported from American sport, right? In terms of how professional they do it. And you can see that in terms of their training techniques, the training drills that they run these days. There's baseball's influence in the cricket drills and the like, that the fielding, the ways that they field, etc. So absolutely, the level of professionalism's risen something remarkably, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And training. Training and all of that as well, but then you bring in cross sport training as well.
Yep.
Because I've known of like baseballers coming in to teach cricketers how to throw, to get that the solid throw back in over the top as fast as they can, whipping it in, the old slide, like the baseballers do, that type of thing. So you learn a lot of skills from other sports as well.
Learning from other sports and integrating that into your own. And it's just interesting, the throwing is still, that's a classic one. That probably sums it up. When you're growing up, and it's just like, you see a story about baseballers coming in to show, cricket. Let's say they've come into the Black Caps camp and they're showing the Black Caps how to throw a ball. I was thinking, what the hell?
Yeah.
What do you mean how you throw a ball? You throw a ball. There's one way to throw a ball, you throw a ball. It's just amazing that the mechanics that go into throwing something or doing something, doing anything. And
Exactly.
it's not a simple thing, is it? There's lots,
No.
it's break it down into the components, and every little component has a better way. I won't say a correct way, because everybody can have their own uniqueness as well. But there's a better way in that little compartment of the whole action of how you can improve.
Exactly. I mean, that's just like, you wouldn't see the Courtney Walsh roll the arm back in to the keeper throw as he used to do back in the day, if you remember. I hardly ever see him throw the ball. He would always roll it in, like bowling style. Yeah, But
I know what you mean, because I used to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because my shoulder was stuffed. No, my shoulder was stuffed. I'd throw my shoulder out if I went and threw the ball and I'd bowl it in.
Yeah, it's that type of thing, right? So nowadays, these guys, they're running, chasing the ball, running towards the ball on the fly, picking it up, baseball style, throwing it back in over the top to the keeper for a run out or something. It's just incredible.
Hey, look, we talk about these changes and the professional attitudes and that. Let's go back to the games that we've been watching on Sky back in the 80s, right? And it's just like, we know what happened. It's just like they go back at the end of the day in the dressing room, and they're finishing off a packet of cigarettes and a box of ales. I mean, like, they still have a beer now, but they're not finishing off a box of cigarettes and as well as a box of beers, are they?
Not doing a slab of beers after a day's play, aren't they? So
no. and I don't think
probably these days too, I'd say, in the changing rooms.
Yeah, I think you'll have the odd player that still has the cigarette or whatever, but they don't do it in the changing rooms.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one, that one. Still being a smoker in a professional environment for cricket. You got to wonder. I'm sure there is many players that still do smoke these days in cricket. And it's probably one of those sports you could probably get away with doing it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that with cricket, you can sort of get away with it, but any other aerobic sport, more about aerobic, let's say, you're going to struggle doing that.
If you're standing at first slip and walking from first slip to first slip all day, you might have the old cigarette. You'll be sweet.
Was it? And it's just like, you're not going to get David Boone's record broken on the flight from Sydney to London, are you?
No, not in this modern day.
Not in the modern day.
You'd lose your job, as they'd say. That would be the end of your career.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Brendan McCullum's a smoker. So it still goes on, as mentioned. Not publicly. They don't go out there and flout it, the fact that, hey, I'm a smoker and the like, or I think they're a bit more. They realise the image and everything that has to go along with modern day professional sport.
That's right. I think another one was Jeets, Dave. I still can't work out why he's called Dave, but I've been trying to figure that one out for a while.
Oh, does he a smoker? Oh, he's
sure he used to be. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I think it was just it was a gag, you know.
I don't know. Dave. But yeah, it's been good to sort of see the evolution and the road to what we're getting this day and age. It's just going to be interesting to how it progresses from here to the next level. Are we going to see 400 runs in a one-day game more often?
You're hitting. Well, look, I mean, like, you're getting quite consistent score. I mean, like, not every day, not every game, but you're starting to get consistent scores between 300 and 350, right? So it's sort of naturally is I still think we're at the early evolution in T20, even though we've had T20 going for a while and it's impacting all our formats of our game. I actually think there's more to come in terms of the way that T20 will impact player development. Because one thing that's starting to happen at the early age group levels that we see now, now we're going back to grassroots cricket, is the fact is that kids are being taught to see ball, hit ball, as opposed to, this is the correct technique. Now it's about, if if the technique that you have, they can iron out a couple of little things in it, but don't change you majorly, and you see ball, you hit ball, and it works, you don't mess with it.
That's right. This is the difference in the way we were coached when we brought up to the modern day player, that the way they're coached, youngsters we're talking about here. My nephew's living in Australia. He gets coaching from the Aussie guys there, and it's just amazing the way they're already making them think positive in the way they are batting. So in our day, we were taught to go in, get your eye in, play the ball straight, and all that sort of stuff. Nowadays, it's attack the ball.
Yeah.
The ball, hit the ball, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Defensive second, attackers first, and just drilling that type of mentality into them. So that's the difference between the way we were raised and played the game to what they're doing this day and age, and it will grow even more, like you're saying.
Absolutely.
More in 2020 goes. But it's. I still think one day that 400 runs in one day cricket will start to become a bit more prevalent.
Absolutely. I mean, you're eventually going to see in T20 cricket where 180, 200 is what you'll really need to get, sort of thing. The pitches are only going to get better. I think that's one of the things that stops. You see scores of 140, 150 in a T20. Those pitches are eventually going to get better and better, and you're going to start getting more consistent. And that's what it's going to come down to, actually, isn't it? Even the 400 in an ODI or a single day in a Test match, it's the pitch conditions and the ground conditions. It's just like going to be, So I think the evolution is really also part of that, is the matrix of the environment.
Yeah, it is. And the technology going into the sports fields and things like that this day and age, it's just unbelievable compared to what in our day. I was just like, wow.
Well, I mean, just something that I do, and I also coach my son's rugby team, and I played rugby as well. And when I played, with the rain that we've had in Auckland, we've had like 2 weeks of some pretty decent rainfall, and which we need to fill our dams up, so we have some water and we can have a shower and we don't smell. That's another story. But I used to play in some mud bogs. And I remember one game in particular, we were our school field had turned into mud, and one part of the field, and we're putting a scrum down there, and the halfback just couldn't get the ball out of the damn scrum, and we're face down in mud, and we put down about 5 scrums in the same mud, and now we don't play on a bad field. This is just council grounds. And they're not getting money. They're not getting money poured into them to the levels of, say, like Eden Park or an international stadium is. But your local grounds are just fantastic facilities now. So I think the development of the environments is just getting so much better.
That's a great thing, I feel, for development of young players getting into the game and moving up the hierarchy. Right, you need to have decent quality equipment to play with and play on. To
produce good quality product.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it all starts at that grassroots level, as I say. And if you don't have that right, then it just, murkies it up for the rest of it.
That's it. If you don't have it right, that non-right, for really good England, is what you're basically bringing up through the ranks.
That's right. And that's why you get a ranked team at the international level if they haven't had that sort of upbringing, so to speak.
Yes,
with the quality, but no.
Going into Simon's question there, do you think T10 cricket might become a thing internationally?
Good God, how does it stop?
Well, I suppose Simon's asking the wrong people here, because we're not fans of T20 cricket, are we? No.
I mean,
so we'd be for us personally. I mean, like, we can't speak for the people with short attention spans.
No.
Did I say that out loud? Oops. But I mean, like, no, T10 for us that'd be a no-go, wouldn't it?
That would be a no-go for me. I mean, what's the point? 60 balls?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like, and you get the occasional game of T10 when a rain shortened T20.
Yeah, I mean, what You want to play cricket for an hour, and that's the game.
Yeah.
Innings each.
Could you have something like T10 or T5 being like sevens in rugby, where you play multiple games in a day and have a festival over a weekend?
Now that could be different.
But again, that would, to my mind, it would be at a lower level. It'd be at a club level or something like that, or a Sunday league, doing it as a Sunday league. I wouldn't see that at an international level. Again, there's just too many. Yeah. I suppose as traditionalists, it's hard to envisage a game of T10, even in a sevens type format.
With Makazi, T20 is just bearable. I mean, I'll watch the internationals when New Zealand play, and that's probably as far as I go for T20. But I'll throw this one out for you, Simon. Maybe T20, T10, but 2 innings.
Yeah. Well, that's the old Martin Crowe style, eh?
Test match.
Yep. T20, T10, a T10 test match or T20 test match. Yeah. Well, one of the precursors to T20 was Martin Crowe's Max Cricket Max, and that's exactly how that was played. And the fact that you had 2 innings of 10 overs each.
Yeah, so that could potentially work, but that's still not really one for the cricket enthusiasts. I would have felt.
It ain't cricket, is it? You know cricket. That it's no cricket.
No, it's not bubble. Look at that. We've sort of jumped around from one thing to another topic-wise, and there's been seeming all over the show tonight, just like the pitch will be today. And to the West Indies England Test match, which kicks off in about an hour, doesn't it?
Well, we've done well. It's just like, well, hopefully, if the little box that I have that allows me to watch some streaming cricket allows, I might be able to watch some of the second day. And so we've made it through a show. It's thanks to everybody that's been on there. Hopefully, we haven't sort of scared you off. I think we've done a bloody good job to fill the show.
Absolutely, considering we were supposed to be talking test match cricket from the first day's play.
And so I think we've just basically done what they do on TV. We've bluffed our through some and killed time and airtime.
Absolutely, we've done a bloody good job at
that. Look, hopefully you've been entertained, and hopefully you've picked up some little gems out of our conversations today. Come back to us next week, and hopefully we've had some test cricket we can talk about and dissect, and they've got some play happening. We have to rely on the English summer to achieve that. Rohit, thanks for being on the show once again this week. Hopefully we might be able to get Tarun back. We'll find out during the week where he sits. And to everybody out there, again, thank you for viewing. Thanks for tuning in, for listening on your podcast. We look forward to seeing you again here on Swinging from the Hip at 8 p.m. on Thursdays, right here on New Zealand Sport Radio. But let's not forget, every morning you can get your sports news update on the morning sports briefing. And on Monday nights, you can get all the rugby chat that you want and need with the #Rugby Chat show with Driving Maul. Tuesday nights, if we get some contestants, we do need some contestants. So if you want to be a contestant, drop us a line. Tuesday nights for Do You Know Sport? Wednesday night, your league fans, your standoff with Sanjay and Brad. So tune in for that and find out what's happening in the league world. And then Thursday nights, as we mentioned before, 8 o'clock, Swinging from Your Hip for your cricketing fix right here on New Zealand Sport Radio. And we'll see you back here next week. Thank you.